Hello everyone. Today I was formally diagnosed with autism, and at 62 that's kind of an unusual occurrence. Most people are generally diagnosed in childhood, but over time, um, as psychologists, psychiatrists, and the parents themselves began to notice that when their children were diagnosed, oftentimes this leads to some time of introspection and looking at oneself and one's behaviors. And even though my son was not formally diagnosed with autism, as his father did not care to have him labeled with a diagnosis, we were often told as he was growing up by other parents who had sons with Asperger's, which is now just part of the autism spectrum, that he probably had it. And we did, my son and I, when he was 16, I think we looked up the DSM-5 description of autism, and he did fit it to a T, and he agreed with me. Over time, I started looking at my father's behavior and my son's and noticing the similarities. And who was the missing link in between? I was. Anyway, so I started looking at the whole issue with a little more interest. So I'm going to make a series of videos because I know there are a lot of women out there from the ages of, a young adulthood to my age in their elder years, that particularly women are 80% less likely to receive a proper diagnosis. And I want to go through the whole diagnostic process and what some of the traits of autism are. It is a developmental disorder. It is not a mental illness, as some might think. And just because women deal with this disability in a different way than men do, than the male counterparts, it doesn't make it any less real, and it doesn't make them not autistic. So one of the things that is considered an autism trait is sensory sensitivities. And so I'd like to go ahead and share with you, in general, the definition of a sensory sensitivity is like a heightened sense of smell, light, sound, or even touch can overload the senses and make it very difficult for a person to function. Sometimes they just have to remove themselves from something that's bothering them. Autistic female adults often have difficulty sleeping because of sensory overload. It could be just like street noises. It could be pets. It could be family members snoring, light from an alarm clock even. So there are a variety of things, and I want to share with you a few of my traits. And you might think, well, I don't have that, but I have this, and understand that you may have some sensory sensitivities as well. For example, one of the things I recall as a child was visiting a relative, my mother's brother, my uncle, and his wife, and I was sleeping in, I think it was their recreational room, which had been paneled in cedar, and the smell from the resin from that paneling just bothered me terribly. And I remember complaining that I couldn't sleep, I couldn't smell, couldn't breathe. I have asthma, which wasn't diagnosed until I was in my 40s, or late 30s, early 40s. And I developed bronchitis sleeping in that room. And I told the doctor and I told my mother, that room bothers me. But we were there to help take care of my aunt through a difficult pregnancy, if I remember right. So anyway, I remember, and that was probably one of my earliest memories of being sensitive to the smell of pine resins. And I mentioned a few of my sensitivities to my doctor, and interestingly enough, when I was talking to my youngest daughter about it, she related to me, well, think about it, really, you have sensitivities to strong odors and smells just in general. Because I believe, let me see, I sent my psychologist an email because I couldn't really remember this during the interview, but I did send her oh my goodness, I'm in the wrong area. I don't know why. My email is split up into focused and other. So annoying. Anyway. Here it is. Oh. Another thing that came to me from my childhood was sauerkraut. My dad loved sauerkraut. I couldn't stand the smell of it. I couldn't stand to be in the house with the smell of it, even in the house. I just basically would run away. I would ask my friends to invite me for dinner, although it was more acquaintances. I would just kind of run away and stay away until it was bedtime and not come home. But I couldn't stand the smell of sauerkraut, and I was not coming home until that smell was out of the house. Anyway, big reason today, while I don't attend church or go to movie theaters, is my inability to escape from the people that tend to me, it seems like they're bathing in perfume or cologne. Apparently, there are a number of people that can't smell their perfume or cologne, and so they use it quite heavily, and for me, it's overwhelming. If I'm in an elevator and someone steps on that's like that, I have to get off. It makes my eyes and nose burn, and I would develop a migraine if I were to stay in that elevator for however long. Hairspray can also be overwhelming, and as even deodorant, my daughter mentioned that. She remembered me being fussy over deodorant. It's got to be a very mild scent. And right now, you know what I use? Coconut oil. It works. It's very effective, antibacterial, and almost no odor. My mother was a cigarette smoker, and I couldn't stand the smell of it. But worse today, because I've been able to be away from it for so long, if I'm around anyone who has cigarette smell on their clothing or cigarette smell in their car, it would cause an asthma flare. That's definitely a no-no. Diesel fuel in traffic jams, I would slow down and try and distance myself from, a diesel producing or a diesel engine that produces, a different smelling smoke and odor exhaust from their exhaust. It would just bother me. Fabuloso is a cheap floor cleaning solution. Can't handle that stuff. My last exposure to it was at my local gym. there was a new cleaning lady, and she was using that, and apparently, I asked the gym owner or manager, you know, about it, and he said that she'd already been asked not to use it. Anyways, I had to leave the gym that day. And previously, I had been exposed to it when one of the employees that I worked on the shift before me, I was doing some private nursing assistant duties, and someone would clean with that before I come in the house, and it would even be dry, but the smell was still in the house, and I couldn't handle it. They like to use essential oils, as have a number of my friends. I can't handle those either. I did wind up having to go to the emergency room one time, caused an asthma flare. Let's see. I love a campfire, but I can't be around it too often. It will cause my asthma to flare up, and I have to move to avoid smoke. I have seen advertised these fire rings that completely combust, so that the smoke that comes out of the fire ring doesn't have any residue in it. And so I was thinking, you know, maybe that way I could enjoy a campfire more than one night in a row and not have to constantly move my chair. Let's see, what are some of the other things? I think that's just about it that I can recall. Incense. Some of my daughter's friends have enjoyed using incense, and or even my daughter, and I can't handle that. So most of the time I would remove myself from these situations. Someone in public is smoking a cigarette, I make sure that I'm upwind from them. I will travel in that distance. I will walk super fast to try and get ahead of them or what have you. Anyway, there are other sensitivities as well. And I do have them, but I think smell is probably one of my biggest problems. And I do have, light. Since I was 5, now this may be solely related to, I had an eye injury when I was around 5. I had a thorn pierce my right eye. So since I was 5, in the sunlight, my right eye is closed. I can't really open it. I wear some glasses that are photograys. They turn dark, and I also usually wear a hat. So between the two, that usually works to help with my eyes. Let's see. Touch. As far as touch, I've not been able to handle pressure on my skin for very long periods. I can handle it for short times, like hugs or what have you, but I really wasn't able to cuddle my children as I would have liked to have. And the same thing will happen like my cats. I have one cat that's smaller than the rest, and I can have her on my lap for a longer period of time. But if they're standing on my lap and then there's increased pressure through their paw pads, that really bothers me. So I try to encourage them to lay down to distribute the weight better. But then I can only, particularly the heavier the cat is, the less time I can tolerate it. I enjoy petting them, but at the same time, I'm constantly distracted by the unpleasant feeling of having that pressure on my skin. And they sleep next to me, but they do sleep next to me. I can't handle having them sleep on me or on my legs or feet or anything. So I do have that. And then when I'm ill, my skin becomes overly sensitive that I don't wear anything besides loose pajamas, and they're usually cotton. My skin feels like it's sunburnt, and just any touch is very uncomfortable and painful, just like if you had a sunburn. So light does bother me in that when I'm trying to sleep, it really needs to be dark. I have to go around if there's a night light left on or something, I have to turn it off. You know, alarm clocks often will have like red letters and stuff on a black background, which you would think is not bright, but that even bothers me. So it's got to be dark. So I do have quite a bit of sensory issues. I have been diagnosed with insomnia and narcolepsy. I'm a big coffee and tea drinker. I have a couple cups of coffee in the morning and low dose caffeine in the form of tea most of the day. But it helps keep me going. Of course, I try not to have any coffee in the afternoon because it will keep me up. But noises, they can be very bothersome. Super loud noises I can't stand. I have to remove myself from the situation. Noises like someone popping gum, biting their fingernails, or sniffing their nose is like, can you not grab a Kleenex, or, you know, if you're out hiking, you know, use a handkerchief, please. I just have to click off on a video. Somebody's constantly sniffing their nose. Oh, I love hiking, but not sniffing noses. So anyway, I'm a bit of a quirky one, and I'm going to link to, I'm using the UCLAhealth.org website in reference for this particular video on sensory issues, and it has more of the traits, particularly with, this is focused on women, and some of the other traits of autism in women are difficulty with self-regulation and executive function, intense interests. I primarily hike and I play Pokemon Go. I do play Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. That's also been a we do repetitive behaviors called stimming, and playing those games, particularly like Pokemon Go, it's not like the typical rocking or what have you that you often see in a child with autism, but I've caught myself often, and you'll see me when I'm nervous or upset, I'll be swinging side to side, or like if I'm in a grocery store and I'm waiting, say at the deli, or waiting in line, I'll sway side to side, you know, kind of almost like you're rocking a child or what have you. Anyway, let's see. But in playing Pokemon Go, you're, in particular, when you're trying to catch a Pokemon, you're swirling the ball and then releasing it to connect to the Pokemon, and that's a lot like a stimming or hand flapping movement, and this is kind of soothing behavior when we're stressed. I have a mole on my finger I've picked at for years. Let's see. Pacing, I have been known to pace, although I prefer to go outdoors and do hiking, and that gives me some of the same soothing effects. I do have attention deficit depression and insomnia, anxiety. I didn't even understand what anxiety was until, you know, I was late in my 40s, and they were saying that the depression was found to be connected with anxiety, and that's what leads to depression. OCD, obsessive compulsive disorders, is when a person has to do things repetitively, like checking locks on the doors to make sure that they're safe or what have you. Anyway, so there are some online tests that you can take, and I will go over autism diagnosis and testing later. And I also want to add that I have been, since last August, on primarily a carnivore diet. I eat mostly beef, although I do include some salmon and sardines, some egg yolks. I'm not allergic to them. I struggle with dairy addiction still. I would like to think that I could eat it and eat butter, because I love some ice cream occasionally, but that's a problem because I still really have a bad allergy to dairy, and that leads to inflammation and continued foggy brain. I had a third bout of COVID because I was working too much. And I was working in a nursing home, and the food was free. If everyone had already eaten, there was food left over, then we were welcome to go ahead and eat. And well, that was a lot more tempting than having to prepare your food ahead of time and having to warm it up in the microwave. So that wasn't so good, because seed oils and carbohydrates and sugar all aggravate and do not help your brain to heal, whereas staying on a ketogenic diet is very healing. And I have had some excellent health, better health than since I was maybe 40, being on that diet. But it wasn't worth it being off of the diet by occasionally having nursing home food, because man, oh man, COVID is no fun, and this third time it's really hit me. Right now I'm struggling to walk 2 miles a day, so gone back to a really strict carnivore and fish diet, basically. I still have coffee with coconut milk. That works. I will use MCT oil as well, because they contain ketones and it helps keep your body in a ketogenic state. Women need more fat on a carnivore diet. So anyway, I think this is long enough. I plan to share more with you and hope that more of you might become interested in the carnivore diet, because I think it's a lot more healing than most modalities that are out there for depression, for sleeping trouble, and for healing inflammation in your brain. So I will cover a lot of that later, after I'm going to do an initial series on autism and autism diagnosis, and teaching people what I've learned to help you understand those around you that might be what are considered neurodivergent. Most people without autism are what the neurodivergent, the autistic populace refer to as neurotypical. I think those are kind of some cute phrases. Anyway, I just want to help bridge the gap in understanding what autism actually is and how it affects people that you may meet in everyday life, and hope that you can understand and have a better relationship with those that are neurodivergent. And likewise, those of us who are neurodivergent, we wish to establish better relationships and better communication skills, and better friendships with those that have brains that think in a typical and normal fashion. Anyway, it's been great chatting with you, and I look forward to sharing with you again in the future. Y'all have a great day and take care. Bye-bye for now.